Have you ever woken up at 3 in the morning, just staring at the ceiling, and your mind is just racing through every possible financial disaster that could hit tomorrow?
Oh, absolutely. The car breaking down.
The job just disappearing, the pet needing some kind of emergency surgery.
Right. It's this intense, what our sources call midnight anxiety. And it is the reality for millions of people. It's like this constant low hum of scarcity in the background of your life.
It really defines a life lived on defense. And that brings us to what we're digging into today. Because when you analyze wealth creation, the most important skill, it turns out, isn't earning more money.
No, not at all. It's keeping the money you earn. That is the fundamental skill.
That distinction is so crucial. Today, we are diving deep into why saving your first $10,000 isn't just some, arbitrary number. It's a complete psychological and physiological game changer.
We're really looking at the science and the strategy behind how you can eliminate those late-night stress sessions and really fundamentally change your financial identity.
Yeah, and our sources for this are a fantastic mix of financial psychology, deep dives, and really practical wealth-building insights. And they all focus on that profound difference between just having a high income and actually achieving financial mastery.
Right.
So if you want to understand the science behind unlocking the mental space you need to achieve your goals, make sure you hit that follow button now.
The whole premise here is a little counterintuitive, isn't it? The idea that a person who intentionally saved $10,000 is actually, in a way, far closer to being financially independent.
Than someone earning twice as much but saving nothing.
Exactly. The saver has mastered the flow of money, while the high earner is often just stuck in that paycheck-to-paycheck cycle, no matter how big the paycheck is.
We call that the income-rich, cash-poor problem. What do the sources call this? This phenomenon where people are making great money but just can't seem to get a handle on it.
They call it the leaky bucket syndrome. Their income is like water just pouring in at the top.
Yeah.
But the bucket is full of holes. So they're spending on, expensive cars, fancy apartments, things driven by a need for instant self-expression.
The appearance of wealth.
Precisely. The appearance of it. They're completely neglecting the underlying skill of actually retaining the capital.
So that appearance is masking this deep internal pressure. Can the sources give us a more, a visceral example of how that constant low-level panic actually plays out in day-to-day life?
Oh, it consumes so much cognitive energy. Think about the daily friction. The sources detail this thing called grocery store math.
I think I know what this is.
You're standing in the aisle, right? And you're mentally calculating if you can afford the name brand cereal or if you have to stick with the generic one that tastes a bit like cardboard.
That constant negotiation, every single item, that friction, it must be profoundly exhausting.
It is, and it spills over into your social life, creating this sense of isolation.
Yeah, because you're inventing all these creative excuses to say no to a friend's dinner invitation.
Exactly. Because a seemingly small $25 meal would completely mess up the budget for the entire week. And that leaves you feeling, well, embarrassed and even resentful.
And all that constant calculation, all those trade-offs, it's directly related to what psychologists call decision fatigue.
That's it. When you're living paycheck to paycheck, every single choice, premium gas versus regular buying lunch versus packing a sandwich, it's not just a choice, it's a survival-based calculation.
And that burns mental energy that should be going towards much more important things.
Totally. It feels relentless. You can't turn off that survival calculator. And then, when an actual unexpected expense hits,
with zero savings, it's an instant crisis.
the check engine light isn't a minor technical issue anymore. It becomes a countdown timer to financial disaster.
Wow. And you're spending all your energy just trying to keep your head above water. The sources have that analogy, right? It's like gasping for financial air in the middle of the ocean.
A perfect analogy. So, if the problem is this constant scarcity-driven anxiety, how exactly does saving $10,000? How does that buy back that mental energy? How does it provide that life raft?
That is the $10,000 transformation. And here's the kicker, the really fascinating part. The majority of the benefit from that money doesn't come from spending it.
No.
It comes from the fundamental psychological certainty of just knowing it's there.
That's the emergency fund effect in action. The moment you hit that five-figure balance, you become almost immune to most of those common financial emergencies.
Like a sudden car repair, a minor medical bill.
Or even a short-term job loss.
Yeah.
That money is a purely psychological shield.
And that shield, it creates this huge shift in your perception of risk. I mean, when you have zero savings, every single decision feels
That's
dangerous.
dangerous.
But with that $10,000 safety net, it's like you're giving yourself permission to think beyond just surviving until the next paycheck. You might finally have the confidence to ask for that promotion.
Or to invest in a course that could advance your career. And it's not just psychological. The sources point to a critical physiological change as well.
You mean in your actual body?
Yes. Zero savings translates directly to a spike in stress hormones. Financial security literally reduces your cortisol levels. That's the body's primary fight or flight hormone. The transformation isn't just financial, it's health-related.
That is profound. So the anxiety that's keeping you up at 3 a.m. is physically changing your body's chemistry?
It is. So when that $10,000 eliminates that deep, visceral panic, the new perspective shows up in your everyday life.
How so?
Well, think about that check engine light again. What used to be a complete disaster.
Yeah.
It immediately gets downgraded to a simple inconvenience.
Or a mild annoyance.
Exactly.
Yeah.
The panic is replaced by planning. And that shift from panic to annoyance, it has these ripple effects. Better sleep, better decision-making.
More patience with your family, I'd imagine.
For sure. You're unleashing all of this mental bandwidth by removing, say, 90% of those daily survival-based calculations. Should I buy this? Can I afford that? Your mind is finally free.
So instead of worrying about making rent,
You can focus on your retirement accounts.
instead of stressing about groceries, you can research a side hustle.
The mental energy you were using to worry about $5 in the grocery store is now being channeled into making calculated decisions that could yield $5,000. It's a complete redirection of focus. You go from playing defense to playing offense.
But, okay, getting to that first $10,000, it takes more than just, temporary willpower. It requires a real identity shift. The sources say that saving the first 1,000 is actually the most brutal part.
It is. They compare it to starting an old car engine in the freezing cold. It takes this huge, constant manual effort just to get any momentum going.
And that's where most people get caught in what our sources call the temporary diet trap.
Oh, that's a great name for it. Because they treat saving like a crash diet. Right. They cut their spending aggressively for a few months, save a bit of money,
And then they burn out from the sacrifice.
and go right back to their old habits. They never actually internalized the new behavior because they never changed how they saw themselves or their money.
So the crucial step is the identity change. You have to stop seeing saving as this temporary sacrifice.
And start seeing it as a long-term value. Successful savers go through a true identity shift. They become an intentional saver who genuinely values long-term accumulation over that immediate gratification.
It's about internalizing the fact that you are now the type of person who saves money.
Exactly. That new identity makes the process almost automatic. Once you cross that $10,000 threshold, you're not deciding if you'll save anymore. You're just deciding where to deploy the money next.
There's this really powerful anecdote in one of the sources that illustrates this perfectly. It's about a person who, after finally hitting $10,000, almost started crying in the grocery store. And not because they could finally afford some luxury item like champagne or something. It was because they realized, for the first time, they could choose what they wanted to eat instead of just what they could afford to eat.
That small moment, that's real freedom. It moves saving from just being an abstract financial exercise to a deep, tangible, emotional reward.
And that shift, that is such a powerful aha moment. If this discussion about financial psychology is giving you one of those moments about the link between your own money and stress levels, well, now is probably a good time to hit that follow button and maybe share this deep dive with someone who really needs to hear it.
So let's pivot a bit to the practical applications of this breathing room, especially when it comes to your career. That $10,000 in savings, it acts as an incredibly powerful advantage in any negotiation. It's a true trump card.
It completely eliminates desperation.
Completely. When you walk into a job interview, your entire posture is different because you know you don't need that specific job to survive.
So you're negotiating from a position of confidence, not fear.
And that allows you to confidently push for a higher salary, for better benefits, for things you deserve. That security, that breathing room of 3 to 6 months of funds, it also allows for strategic selectivity.
Meaning you don't have to jump at the first bad offer that comes along.
Right. You can actually take the time to be selective, to be strategic, and find an opportunity that really aligns with your long-term goals, not just your immediate need for a paycheck.
And that security enables calculated risks. A person without savings, they might skip a $50 networking event, or, and this is crucial, they might pass up a $2,000 professional certification.
Even if that certification promises a $10,000 salary boost down the line.
Because that upfront cost just feels way too dangerous. But the intentional saver, they see that $2,000 outlay not as a risk, but as an obvious high-value investment in themselves.
This creates a positive feedback loop, doesn't it? The confidence and the strategic investments lead to better job offers, which leads to higher compensation.
Which then just accelerates your financial progress even more. It compounds on itself.
And once that constant pressure of survival is off, you finally have the cognitive clarity to think about all those small optimizations.
Dues you never had time for before, like shopping around for cheaper car insurance or optimizing an expensive phone plan.
Or refinancing debt. These are the steps that felt impossible when every moment was spent just reacting to the next immediate crisis.
That's the ultimate luxury, really, the ability to choose what you want to focus on, growth optimization, instead of what you have to focus on, which is just survival.
So what's the takeaway for someone who's struggling to even get started?
Right.
I think we've seen that financial success isn't really about the raw income. It's about literacy and discipline.
Income is the flow, the raw material, but the skill of keeping the money. That's the engine that converts that flow into actual freedom.
It's the difference between having a leaky bucket and having one that's sealed. You can pour a high income into a leaky bucket forever, and it will always leave you empty and anxious.
But if you seal those holes through intentional saving, your bucket's going to fill up steadily. It provides security no matter what kind of turbulence is happening outside.
I think the ultimate takeaway here is that the $10,000 milestone is your financial life raft. If living without savings felt like gasping for financial air,
That $10,000 doesn't get you to shore immediately, but it provides that essential breathing room. You stop panicking, you calm down, you finally have the clarity to start looking for the right direction.
and that calm, strategic thinking is only possible because of the fundamental and I think provocative truth we've uncovered here today. The ultimate value of that $10,000. It isn't the dollar amount itself. It's the fact that the effort required forces you to become the type of person who has money saved.
That shift in identity, that's what makes wealth building almost inevitable.
It's irreversible.
We hope this deep dive helped you shift your strategic focus and understand the true cost of financial stress. If you enjoyed extracting these essential nuggets of knowledge, remember to hit that follow button so you don't miss our next deep dive into another fascinating topic.